Hello, I'm Jamie and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about whether or not Taskmaster works with non-comedians, and obviously this is a review of the Taskmaster New Year's treat, specifically the one that recently aired, so the 2022 version, obviously the second one that they've done, but I will draw reference to the first Taskmaster New Year's treat as well, just to answer the question about whether or not it works as well as like the traditional Taskmaster with a set of like all comedians. So the first Taskmaster New Year's treat featured John Hannah, who's an actor, Krishnan Guru Murthy, who's a journalist, mainly on Channel 4, Nicola Coughlan, who is an actress known for like Derry Girls and Bridgerton, Ryan Clark Neal, who's a like presenter, just TV personality, and then Shirley Ballas, who is dancer, most known for like being on Strictly. And I thought the first ever Taskmaster New Year's treat was really, really good. I thought everybody was a great choice to have on the show. I liked that as well. They were all kind of big household names. Like I knew all of them going into the episode, which was really nice to have. And I thought everybody was really, really good. I think the tasks were good, and yeah, I was just very pleasantly surprised. My favourite contestant was probably Nicola, just because I loved how into Taskmaster she was, and I think she was fantastic on Derry Girls. She's just brilliant. But yeah, Taskmaster New Year's Treat 2, so the recent one, had Adrian Charles, who is a presenter, Claudia Winkleman, who again, presenter, TV personality, Johnny Peacock, who is a Paralympian, Lady Leisha, who is a rapper, and then Saida Warsi, who is a politician. Now, I think first impressions, I wasn't as impressed with the contestants this year than I was last year, with the exception of Claudia Winkleman. I thought she's obviously somebody that we've talked about a lot. I know loads of people on like live streams have said that they want Claudia Winkleman to be on, and yeah, she didn't disappoint. And at first I was like, oh, okay, we've got Claudia Winkleman, but shame that she's not on for a full series. And yeah, I didn't really know anybody else. So I went into this episode with like less expectations than I did with the first Taskmaster New Year's treat. But yeah, I went into there with less expectations, and I was very pleasantly surprised by most of it, which was fantastic. So let's first get into what I liked. So first of all was the tasks. I thought the tasks were very, very strong. They were simple yet effective, very reminiscent of earlier series of Taskmaster. I thought, yeah, they were just all great. I think this was a really good idea, especially because they've only got one episode to really like showcase like the talent and the comedians themselves. So I think just going with open-ended tasks where they've got to really think on their feet, and like, you know, they're gonna be a bit silly. They're gonna really like have different, like each contestant's gonna have different approaches is the best idea, because it would really suck if we watched one episode and there was a task where everybody did the same thing. Like that wouldn't be very entertaining for us. So we want them to all be doing different things. Yeah, so it was nice to see like such a variety of attempts in just like one episode. I think it just worked really, really well. I think the prize task was about the same as what we have in normal series. People did seem to bring in like and put effort into their prizes and bring in decent things. I think the award was very good, and part of like the Paralympic flame was also very, very good. I think that should have won over the award, but I think all the prizes were good. There was obviously, I think like Adrian's one was kind of one that was like, it just, you know, he talked it up and that was entertaining rather than the actual prize being that good itself. But yeah, let's just get into like what I liked about each individual task. So the first task was put the egg in the egg cup in the most daring way. And yeah, it was a very, very fun task. It was a great one to start the show with. And yeah, I loved Lady Leisha with the salmon, because apparently she's just like addicted to salmon. That was really good, and her catch in the egg cup was great. Johnny's attempt I loved, with it rolling down. It's very dramatic, very sad that his egg broke. And it's a shame he was disqualified. But I think his was definitely the most daring, and it was really fun to see somebody go like all out. And then there was Adrian's one where it was like crawling on the gravel. That was just, yeah, insane. I did not expect that from him, and I think I was, yeah, really pleasantly surprised by how much effort they put in. With the exception, Lady Leisha didn't put in that much effort, but like it was an interesting approach that I don't think anybody else would have done. Like daring means flinging an egg with salmon into an egg cup. Like, that's just odd, and it was just very pleasantly surprised, and I loved how different everybody was. That's basically what I'm trying to say. I think the way they collected all the contestants, not comedians, was very good because they all did have very different approaches, and I think they weren't trying to be funny either. I think they were just really going with like what they thought was good. I don't know. But yeah, no, I really like that one. I think Johnny's attempt was my favourite overall. Just because it was a lot more dramatic and I liked how much effort he put in. So the second task was drink all the vinegar, which, is it my favourite one or is it task 3? I don't know. I love this task. This is very reminiscent of the New Zealand beans task. I absolutely loved that, and this one was just hilarious to watch. I loved everybody's attempt. Again, we got a really nice variety of like different ways of doing this task, from like Lady Leisha shotting them all, dipping the fingers in, trying them all, or just trying to rely on sense of smell. Yeah, because this is the one where I don't know why I probably would have like done, I think, what Claudia did, like trying all the different ones. I thought she was very smart for figuring out which ones, like these ones are sweet, these ones are sour. I thought that was very, very smart. And again, I think the editing on this task was very well done, like showing them how close they were to it, especially because they know how close like the 3 who didn't get any points were. I thought that was, again, very well edited, and again, just very reminiscent of our normal Taskmaster. And I think that's just fantastic. And I never really expected like the individual episodes, like the New Year's treat, to be as good as they are, because I just feel like a lot of time the shows do rely on like running jokes and stuff like that, and the fact that we're going in like so strong with an episode is just fantastic, because I always found that the first episode of this series was generally not my favourite. I think one exception would be series 2, because that was when we had like Potato Gate and stuff like that. But yeah, I always find I enjoy the later episodes of a series more, because you've got the cast kind of get more chemistry with each other and get to know each other a bit more. But it's both New Year's Treat episodes have been fantastic, like straight from the beginning, which I think is just, I don't know how they managed to do it. It's just really good. Especially because like all the contestants seemingly have like no relation with each other. Like comedians you'd expect to know each other because they work within the same like comedy circuit. You'd expect them to like know of each other, but I don't know, it's just really interesting to me. And again, I loved Johnny's attempt. I think he was probably my favourite in the pre-recorded tasks, because having to drink up vinegar with a straw, most people wouldn't do that, and the fact that he did was just incredible. And yeah, I just thought he was just really good in this task. And then obviously task 3 was to like take that pole around the course, and like the taller the pole is, the more points you get. If you touch something, then you lose 10 centimeters from your pole, and like tallest pole wins at the end. And again, I thought this was a fantastic task. Oh my god, again, Johnny with like going to like full height was just insane. And then Claudia and Lady Leisha putting it up like quite high as well, considering how small they are, especially Lady Leisha, like she's like 4 foot like 11 or something. So seeing her try and navigate with this massive pole was just hilarious, and she did surprisingly better than I thought. Again, Adrian was just straight into it. I think he surprised me just how consistently good he was throughout all of the tasks, which was quite surprising to me. I don't think we've had anybody like dominate the tasks as much as he has in like one episode. So yeah, he did fantastic. I think through this task as well, Alex made a lot of funny comments. I think I particularly noticed it in this task. Consistently commenting on how the contestants were doing when they touched something. A lot of the time, we see Alex kind of get cheekier as the series goes on, and as he's with the contestants longer. And the fact that he's straight in, just commenting and being his usual self, I think is great. On with that, the chemistry I thought was pretty good throughout the contestants. Again, for them just being together for one episode, I thought it was very, very good. And I love that we had, a bit of like, little bit of competition, a little bit of banter between them all. That was really good. And Alex's comment at the end in the studio task with Claudia being orange, I thought was hilarious. Like, it just came out of nowhere. It's something you wouldn't expect Alex to say, which was just fantastic. I loved that. It was just one of the highlights of the episode. So with the contestants, so I did like most of the contestants. As I've said before, I think Johnny Peacock was fantastic. I loved how full on he was in each task, but in a non-obnoxious way. He really went all out. He did the best he could. Like, he was so like daring, literally, with the first task. and put his all in. And I think he was just fantastic and a pure, I don't know, you can like tell he's an athlete, if that makes sense. But yeah, I thought he was fantastic. It's such a shame that we didn't get him in the studio. Obviously he was ill, which is such a shame, I think. But I think it really proves that he really stood out to me in the pre-recorded task, because he's one of the people that I remember, like attempts I remember the most, and the fact that he wasn't in the studio to kind of like argue his case and stuff like that is just proves how dynamic he was in the pre-recorded ones. And yeah, I thought he was great. Alan as a replacement for him in the studio was fantastic. I love seeing him back again. I loved him in series 12, so it was great to see him back, and I think he worked very well with the contestants as well. And yeah, I just think he was a great addition to the show. He commented when he needed to, but he didn't steal the spotlight from the other contestants. And I'd say the same with Claudia as well, because obviously being the only comedian, I would say the same with Claudia as well. For me, she is the most well-known, done a lot of comedy things before, like she's been on 8 or 10 Cats, Would I Lie to You, Big Fat Quiz of the Year. So she knows like Greg. I'm pretty sure she's been on things with Greg before. And she's quite like a big, loud personality a lot of the time, and I think she did a great job of being like shining, but also not stealing the spotlight as well, and letting other people really shine as well. I think Lady Leisha was also really fantastic in the studio. I think, yeah, I just thought she was great. And Adrian again surprised me loads. I think him walking out with that cookery book and talking about stuff, I think that was just odd and fantastic. His passion for cleaning things, it was great as well. And again, we even got that as a running joke throughout the episode, which I think was fantastic. I wasn't a massive fan of Saida, which we'll get into in a bit, but I think she wasn't unpleasant on the show. I think she had some good moments. Yeah, she got on with the other casts very well as well. And another thing I really liked about this episode was the fact that we had the studio audience return, which I did not notice the first time I watched it. It was only because people pointed it out that they were sat closer together and we had the studio audience back in. I thought that was fantastic. It's nice to see that they're moving away from their really distant set. Again, like, the studio audience does bring a vital aspect to the show. I don't really think series 10, 11 and 12 really suffered too much with the lack of the studio audience. I think in some ways it benefited, like we talked about the studio tasks in series 12 really making use of the fact that they had more space and they could do more daring things. So yeah, it's kind of one of those things where it's kind of good and bad, but overall I think it's great to have the audience back in, and them just, I think more importantly, the audience is them being closer together, like the cast. So yeah, I liked that. So what didn't I like? The main thing that I didn't like, and this I've seen a lot of people talk about, is the fact that Saida Warsi is a Conservative politician. Now, inherently, people can have whatever opinions they want, and I'm allowed to disagree with their opinions as much as I want to disagree with them. But I think the main things for me is that Taskmaster has, I don't know whether it's on purpose, but historically throughout Taskmaster, they have been either like apolitical, so no mention of politics, or they have been left-leaning. I think they haven't had any offensive comedians. We haven't had anybody with strong controversial opinions be on the show. In fact, we've had quite the opposite. Like, we've had David Baddiel, who advocate and campaigner for against Jewish discrimination, and he's done loads of work towards that as well. James Acaster has made strong stands against transphobia, specifically against comedians telling transphobic jokes. We've had Aisling and Katherine and Sally, really strong feminists, and talked about that on the show as well, like bringing in Suffragette Pin, things like that. Loads of the comedians are very left-leaning, like Nish. He hosted the MASH report, which was very left-leaning, and it's just a common theme that the comedians on the show that have been showcased are typically left-leaning. But yeah, I just think it's an odd choice when you're not platforming offensive comedians and comedians with strong right-leaning political views to then have a Tory politician on the show. I just think that's an odd choice, especially when this politician has made very controversial opinions about LGBT people. I know I'm probably going to have many people disagreeing with me, and again, as I said before, people are allowed to have different political opinions to me. Whether or not I like those opinions is a different question. But I think showcasing somebody and platforming them when they have such controversial views and opinions and are actually acting on those controversial opinions by being in Parliament, being in the House of Lords and voting for it and putting those things into action is not good. I don't think it's a good thing that we should be continuing on Taskmaster. I don't think she wasn't offensive on the show. I don't know. I didn't want to get too much into it because I don't want my channel to be political. I don't want it to be. I want it to be, it's escapist for me and I want it to be escapist for everybody else. I just want to talk about shows, but I feel like it's hard to ignore, and it is the main thing that I disliked about this episode. And I know I'm not alone in that opinion. And yeah, the only other thing I didn't like about the show is the fact that Johnny wasn't in the studio, but that couldn't have been avoided. It's not his fault. It's just a shame. Oh yeah, another thing that I wasn't a massive fan of was the studio task. I think apart from it led to a very funny moment, like I said, with Claudia, but I think the general task wasn't that great for a final task. Like, they were so strong with the tasks in series 12, like the studio tasks, and I feel like one of those would have been better used for this episode. I think you've got to, for a show, for just one episode, you've got to go off with a bang. So I feel like to have kind of a less impressive task to finish with wasn't the best idea, but it did lead to a very hilarious moment. So I don't know, that's kind of a mixed one for me. Actually, one thing I forgot to mention that I liked was that Greg was less biased in this episode. Because obviously with the first Taskmaster New Year's treat, I thought he was a little bit biased towards Shirley, and sometimes I would have given points to other people over her, but I think the points were distributed quite fairly. The only exception would have been for the prize task, which I mentioned before, but that's actually just swapping first and second place. Generally, I think Adrian deserved to win. I think he went all out. I mean, the top two places would have been my choice of winners, either Adrian or Johnny. Those two stood out to me being really hilarious with their tasks, being inventive, being daring, being silly. So yeah, they deserve to win, in my opinion, either one of them. And I think Adrian was a very strong contestant. And for the exception of one contestant, I would have liked to have seen everybody in a whole series. I think it worked very well. So to answer the question, does it work with non-comedians? Yeah, it does, at least for a single episode. Whether or not it works for a full series, maybe we'll see. Yeah, I think it's definitely got potential, but obviously I think it just shows that as long as the tasks are good, then the show will be good. I think that is the inherent property of the show that needs to work, and it's working so far. I think one thing that the New Year's treat episodes have showed me is that as long as the tasks are good, then the show will be good. I think that the contestants, while I think obviously they play a vital part in the studio element, in the actual doing the tasks, as long as they're good tasks, it's going to be good to watch because everybody's going to have different opinions. Again, like I said before, I liked that the contestants weren't trying to be comedians. They weren't trying to be funny. They weren't trying to do what comedians do. They were just doing what they thought was best in the task, being a bit silly and having fun with it. And that's what I think Taskmaster is about, was just having fun with the show. And they all did that, and I think that was very nice to see. Whether or not it will work for a full episode, a full series, I'm still undecided, because then that's when you would start to rely on the comedians a bit more and the chemistry and the jokes to keep it running throughout a full series. But I have very high hopes, and I know I have seen rumours that Taskmaster is going to move away from comedians and into just more celebrities or personalities, because they've done so many series, and I think they've got plans to do so many more. And if they've already used so many comedians, then they're going to run out of prominent comedians sometime soon. Overall, I loved it. I think it was a fantastic episode. I think I definitely preferred the tasks to the first New Year's treat episode. So yeah, that's the end of the video. Thank you for watching. If you liked it, then please give this video a like and comment down below what you thought of this episode. I really liked it. Did you? If not, why not? And do you think Taskmaster could work as a full series with non-comedians? Because yeah, I'm interested to know what you think. And yeah, subscribe if you want to see more videos to do with Taskmaster and other British TV shows. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye!